Meredith Kercher was a 21-year-old British exchange student from Colston, South London, attending the University of Perugia through the Erasmus program. Fluent in Italian and academically strong, Meredith was studying European politics and Italian language and culture. She was known among her friends and family for her warmth, intelligence, and sense of humor. In Perugia, she quickly adapted, forming friendships and integrating well into the international student community. She lived in a modest cottage at 7 Via della Pergola with 3 other young women, 2 Italian students and 1 American, 20-year-old Amanda Knox, who had arrived in Italy only a few weeks earlier from Seattle. Amanda Knox had come to Perugia to study Italian and creative writing. She was friendly but eccentric, often described by others as uninhibited and socially awkward. Within days of arriving in Italy, she met Raffaella Sollecito, a quiet, intelligent 23-year-old computer science student from Bari. Sollecito came from a wealthy and influential family. His father was a prominent urologist. Amanda and Raffaele became romantically involved and spent nearly all of their time together, sleeping at his apartment most nights. On the evening of November 1, 2007, after Halloween celebrations, Meredith Kercher returned home while Knox and Sollecito stayed at his apartment. Meredith had spent part of the evening with friends, had dinner, and walked home around 9 p.m. Neighbors later reported hearing screams sometime between 10:30 and 11:30 p.m. Amanda and Raffaele claimed they were together watching a movie and using the internet. The next morning, Amanda said she returned to the cottage to find the front door ajar and traces of blood in the bathroom sink and on the bath mat. She reportedly showered, dressed, and returned to Sollecito's apartment. They later went back to the cottage together and called the police. By the time police arrived, Knox and Sollecito were outside the house. The Italian postal police had arrived first due to reports of a found phone, which had been traced to Meredith. Upon entering the house, they discovered Meredith's bedroom door locked. When it was forced open, they found her half-naked body under a duvet. Her throat had been slit in a violent attack. There were signs of a struggle, bruises, defensive wounds, and 47 total injuries. Blood was smeared on the mattress, floor, walls, and sink. Her bra had been removed and cut off with a sharp object. Her room was ransacked, and her mobile phones had been discarded in a neighbor's garden. Investigators initially considered a burglary, but quickly ruled it out due to signs that the break-in had been staged. A window had been shattered, but the broken glass lay on top of objects that would have been disturbed had the window truly been the entry point. Attention quickly turned to Amanda Knox and Raffaele Sollecito. Their behavior during questioning and at the crime scene alarmed investigators. Knox was seen kissing Sollecito and doing cartwheels at the police station. She gave several inconsistent statements and seemed emotionally detached. Under intense overnight interrogation without legal counsel or a proper interpreter, Knox gave a confused account implicating her boss, Patrick Lumumba, saying she was in the house when Meredith was killed and heard her screaming. Lumumba, a Congolese-born musician who owned the bar where Amanda worked part-time, was arrested but later exonerated when he proved he was working at the bar the entire night, supported by multiple witnesses and receipts. Amanda recanted her statement but was nonetheless kept in custody. Meanwhile, forensic evidence pointed to a third party, Rudy Herman Guede, a 20-year-old of Ivorian descent who had been raised in Italy. Guede had a troubled history, including break-ins and drug use. He fled to Germany shortly after the murder but was arrested and extradited after his DNA was found on and inside Meredith's body, on her bra clasp, and on her handbag. His bloody handprint was also found on a pillowcase. Guede claimed he was at the house to use the bathroom and had consensual sexual contact with Meredith earlier that evening. He said he emerged from the bathroom to find Meredith mortally wounded and fled in panic, afraid he would be blamed. His story failed to align with the forensic timeline. Investigators and the court found his DNA was too extensively present in the room to suggest a passive role. Quaid opted for a fast-track trial and was convicted in 2008 of sexual assault and murder. The court ruled that he had not acted alone, suggesting the presence of accomplices. His sentence of 30 years was reduced to 16 on appeal due to mitigating factors. He would ultimately serve 13 years. The prosecution argued that Amanda Knox and Raffaele Solicito participated in a drug-fueled, sexually motivated attack. The theory alleged that Knox, resentful of Meredith, coerced her into participating in a sadistic sexual game with the assistance of Solicito and Guede. The prosecution's key evidence against Knox and Solicito included a kitchen knife found at Solicito's apartment, which had Amanda, his DNA on the handle, and a trace amount of what forensic experts claimed was Meredith's DNA on the blade. Additionally, a bra clasp recovered 47 days after the murder reportedly contained Solicito's DNA. The clasp had been moved and handled by multiple investigators, raising concerns about contamination. There were no fingerprints, no reliable DNA, and no footprints from either Knox or Solicito in Meredith's room. Despite these inconsistencies, the case against them was bolstered by Knox's conflicting statements and behavior, as well as media-fueled suspicion. In December 2009, after a year-long trial filled with sensational headlines, both Amanda Knox and Raffaele Solicito were convicted. Knox received 26 years in prison. Solicito got 25. The courtroom atmosphere was intense and hostile, with the media portraying Knox as a manipulative femme fatale nicknamed Foxy Knoxy. International attention surged, with the American and British press often presenting conflicting narratives. Meredith's family remained largely silent but dignified throughout, emphasizing their focus on justice for Meredith rather than media speculation. In 2011, Knox and Solicito appealed their convictions. This appeal was dramatically different from the first trial. Independent forensic experts appointed by the court discredited the key pieces of evidence, the DNA on the knife and bra clasp. They determined the bra clasp was too degraded and likely contaminated. The tiny trace of Meredith's DNA on the knife blade could not be definitively identified and may have come from lab contamination. Witnesses for the prosecution were also discredited, including a homeless man who claimed to have seen Knox and Solicito near the house that night. His story changed repeatedly. In October 2011, both were acquitted on appeal and released. Knox returned to Seattle immediately, but in 2013, Italy's Supreme Court, the Court of Cassation, overturned the acquittal, citing procedural irregularities and logical inconsistencies in the appellate decision. A retrial was ordered and held in Florence in 2014. Knox, tried in absentia, and Solicito were once again convicted. Knox's sentence was increased to 28.5 years. This decision again attracted global media coverage and legal scrutiny. In March 2015, the case came to a final conclusion. The Court of Cassation definitively overturned the convictions, fully acquitting both Knox and Solicito. The court criticized the investigation as deeply flawed, citing a stunning series of failures, contamination of evidence, unreliable witness testimony, and speculative reasoning unsupported by forensic proof. The ruling emphasized that there was no credible evidence placing either Knox or Solicito in the room at the time of the murder, and condemned the lower courts for building a theory rather than following the evidence. Rudy Guede served most of his sentence and was granted early release in late 2021. He has continued to deny responsibility for the murder, maintaining that he was present but innocent of killing Meredith. Amanda Knox became a public figure advocating for criminal justice reform and wrongful convictions. She authored a memoir titled Waiting to be Heard and participated in documentaries, including the 2016 Netflix film Amanda Knox. Raffaele Solicito wrote a book about his experience and returned to work in Italy. Meredith Kercher's family, especially her parents and siblings, expressed deep sorrow over the legal chaos that defined the case. Their grief was compounded by years of inconsistent rulings and the public spectacle surrounding the trials. Despite Guedes' conviction, the belief that more than one person was involved remains a source of anguish, with no definitive resolution. Meredith was laid to rest in London. Her family has remembered her as a kind, diligent, and joyful young woman whose life was brutally and senselessly taken. The case remains one of the most controversial and widely debated in recent legal history, a tragic blend of sensationalism, judicial error, and lasting uncertainty.